I'm Michelle McMaster, Vice President of Housing at Habitat for Humanity Canada, and it's my pleasure to take the podium this evening on behalf of the organizing committee, the City of Toronto, Habitat for Humanity GTA, and Habitat for Humanity Canada. I'd like to start by thanking tonight's sponsors, who you've just met on the sizzle reel you may have seen as people came into the room. It's also on repeat in the lobby, so you'll have a chance to look at it later. We're grateful to have such a strong contingent of generous sponsors who've supported this event year after year. All sponsoring organizations are leaders in their field, helping to build tomorrow's Toronto. Thank you to Ellis Don Community Builders, Van City Community Investment Bank, Dream, Greenwin, Wood Green, Options for Homes, Habitat for Humanity GTA, and Habitat for Humanity Canada. And we have a new sponsor this year, George Brown College. With multiple, there's a crowd. With multiple locations in buildings across the city, George Brown has one of the most innovative approaches among academic institutions to meeting the community in the community. So welcome to National Housing Day family, George Brown. Before we get any further into the night's program, let's take a minute to consider the legacy of the very land on which we are gathered and on which tomorrow's Toronto will rise. For our land acknowledgement, it's my pleasure to welcome to the podium my colleague Stacey Sawchuk, Director of Global and Indigenous Initiatives at Habitat for Humanity Canada.
Thanks, Michelle, and good evening, everyone. As we gather here to celebrate National Housing Day, I wanted to recognize that the traditional Indigenous territories across Turtle Island that provide us with the physical space, the sustenance, the safety, and the community to work, live, and play. Today we are here in Takaranto. This is the place in the water where the trees are standing. This land is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, and the Wendat. We acknowledge that these lands are covered by Treaty 13 and the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant. We acknowledge that these lands are still home to many diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, and we pay our respects to the many stewards of these lands from time immemorial. Thank you.
Well, people keep asking me, what is the actual date for National Housing Day? And you're correct if you know it is not tonight. It is actually November 22nd, which this year is Friday night, but we know that's not the best night for a work party. So over the years, we've found Tuesday and Wednesday are the best nights for everyone to gather. This year, for the first time, this group will mark the actual date of National Housing Day with a social media campaign featuring tonight's event. So on Friday, November 22nd, check your channels and please add your comments and share what you see. To those of you who've been attending this event for 8 or 9 years, the time since Sean Gadden, Heather Tremaine, and I first cooked it up, you may remember that while we haven't been at this venue for several years, we have been here a number of times before, including in 2017. And the party started right after Justin Trudeau announced the National Housing Strategy at Lawrence Heights on possibly the coldest November day ever. So much has happened since the National Housing Strategy was launched. Remember COVID? Yet we face an even more dire housing crisis than we did in 2017. What is the solution to the housing crisis? Everyone I talk to says we need 3 things: money, partnerships, and innovation. We're going to talk about all 3 tonight. Money will kind of wind its way through the various conversations on the stage, but a quick word about partnerships. Every year, this National Housing Day event brings together what is arguably the most diverse group of stakeholders in the city. You will notice your name tag has a ribbon on it in a different color. We know that over the years, a number of collaborations have been seeded at this event. So I'm green, find someone that's a different color and start a conversation. Who knows? They could be your next housing partner. The third part of the solution to the housing crisis is innovation, and that is the focus of tonight's program. So now it is my pleasure to invite to the stage my colleague, Ian Underwood, CEO for Habitat for Humanity GTA. She'll introduce the mayor and her speakers. Ian.
Thanks so much, Michelle, and thank you all of you. What a cool turnout. This is just so neat to see the mix of leadership in the room today. Innovation can be defined as the process of bringing about new ideas, methods, products, services, or solutions that have significant positive impact and value. And I know positive impact and value is what brings us here this evening. When we asked Mayor Chow to take the stage at this event tonight and share her thoughts on innovation in housing, she said something that was itself innovative, certainly for a mayor. She didn't want to be interviewed about what she thought great housing innovations in the city are. Instead, she wanted to do the interviewing and talk with people that who are themselves leading innovations. And so that was the genesis of tonight's program. So what's going to happen over this next 45 minutes or an hour is Mayor Chow is going to do 4 short interviews about innovations in Toronto that she has identified that she's particularly excited about. And she's going to be her own producer, timing the interviews as well. And I have to say, Mayor Chow, I kind of wondered how that would go until I saw you sit down and write her own kind of timing signals and arm her staff with them. So we are indeed in good hands. So since I don't want to interrupt the flow of what we're going to experience tonight, I'm going to provide an introduction to the program and the speakers before the mayor takes center stage and leads us from there. So first up will be President and Chief Responsible Officer for Dream Unlimited, Michael Cooper. Michael and the mayor will be discussing the potential impact of Toronto's new development charge waiver plan to encourage construction of rental housing with strong affordability. Then we'll hear from the latest innovative build from St. Clair's Multi-Faith Housing Society with Executive Director Andrea Adams and her architect Nama Blunder. That will be followed by Tricon's Managing Director, Andrew Joyner, talking about the last approved Housing Now site, which is actually the first site in the ground, and we'll meet his nonprofit partner, Jason Lai, Executive Director from the March of Dimes. And then finally rounding it out will be Dr. Andrew Bazari of the University Health Network and Keith Hambley, Executive Director of Fred Victor, who will talk about how they're using housing to improve health outcomes for the homeless at Dunn House. Now, Mayor Chow has asked all the speakers to think about one aspect of their innovation that all of us can take away, regardless of what area of housing that we're involved in. So pull out a pen, make notes, listen intently. This is exactly the kind of conversation that we need this evening. Mayor Chow, thank you for leading us in it.
Wow, good evening. Are you ready for some fun? This is called Work Party. Party being one of, come grab a seat. Take whichever seat. Oh, okay. All right. You're in the middle. All right. Okay. So this is how it'll work. Yes, I like to be timely. You never want a politician to be on the stage for too long. So we have 4 speakers, 10 minutes each, okay? So I have 30 seconds to ask the question, and 1.5 minutes to answer the first question. I know. I have a timer here. And then I'm going to ask the next question, another 1.5 minutes. If it goes over to 2, it's okay. And then the third part is, what's your takeaway? I'm going to ask you that. You may have no more than 2 minutes. Brandon is going to jump up, wave the sign saying time. Because, we need to be fair for the 4th speaker, right? And then the last one is the questioner. The person will then ask me a question, and then I'll answer. Okay? So that's how it'll go. We have a timer. I dragged my staff here to do this, okay? And so they have their cell phone going, right? So we're timing so that we'll, I'll go over a little bit. It's not the end of the world, but we do want to make sure that we can hear from all four speakers. Are we good with that? Okay. All right. Let me start. Michael, welcome to the National Housing Day. You're my first victim. Pardon me, my first interview subject. And I have seen other wonderful projects in this city, and you have a national perspective to bring to this conversation. You've built in Toronto, I'm thinking about West Donland. You have the giant Alpine Park in Calgary. What's that? 600 acres or something like that? And you're building in Saskatoon and Ottawa. How does it compare? Because I'm always competitive. In terms of Calgary, okay, you can be honest, Saskatoon, Ottawa, and Toronto. Okay, yeah, we might take a bit longer to approve, but, that was in the past. But go for it.
I have an Aura ring that measures my stress level. Listening to you about the time requirements, the most stressed I've been all day. So I'm born. I've been born here. I've lived in Toronto my whole life, except for when I went away to university. When I started a real estate company, the first investment we was in Saskatoon. So the biggest contributor to our company's success has been our Western Canadian business. In Saskatoon, we have a community that's 3,000 acres. It's 50% of all new housing, and it will be for more than 100 years. So we can really plan to do something special, and we do really special things there. The 600-acre community in Calgary is actually 1,815 acres. So we've gone really big over a long time, taken us years and years to put that together. But getting to Toronto has always been tough. So just as a precursor to the conversation here today, Toronto's always been very difficult to navigate. And it's big money, very competitive. Lots of people have capital. So when you hear everybody say how hard it is, it's kind of like hard always, but it's exceptionally hard now. Just to make it simple, in Ottawa, we build basically $100 million apartments. In Saskatoon, we develop land, we build some retail, but what we're really into now is, let's say, $30, $40 million apartments, townhouses for rent, single family for rent. We do not have a single a unit in Saskatchewan that isn't leased. We lease them before they're finished. In Calgary, lots are up 20% this year. And the thing about the prairies is people make a lot more money, and it's a lot cheaper to live. So it works pretty good. In Ottawa, it's pretty good. But Toronto's come to a dead standstill, and it's for a whole bunch of reasons. And one of the things is the feds kept saying it's zoning, and it's like, no, everything's zoned. It's not zoning. Site plans are hard, but to make the math work is tough. 15 seconds. So
Coming to the core of the question.
So the projects are really big in Toronto. They're really expensive. And when we talk about affordability, the thing that people always forget is it's not the cost. It's how much money people make. And in Toronto, we have a huge problem that people do not make enough money to pay the economic rents. So we're talking about affordable in the 20% that's about half price. The balance are about $3,000 a unit. Now, if you make $110,000 a year, which, just so the next dollar you pay 40% tax. Think about that, $110,000, which is all the people we care about. It's firefighters, police officers, teachers, everybody. It's this huge chunk at $110,000, next dollar is 40% more tax. How are they gonna, they can afford $2,200 a month, a new building's $3,000. So to me, the biggest struggle is the 20% will be leased forever, they can be subsidized, but we gotta make sure that people in Toronto make enough money to rent a one-bedroom apartment.
Right. Huh.
There you go.
But while that is happening, we still need you to build.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you don't build, we got nothing. We can wait for the salary to
When
go
you
up.
waive development fees of a building that wouldn't have otherwise been built, how much did you spend?
Ah, yes. Thank you for asking my next question. So, we are waiving all the development charges, yes, for 7,000 units and 15% property taxes. We would like to waive more, but poor old Toronto, we're at $1.8 billion in the budget hole. You heard that too many times. But we're willing to step up and say, let us show that other levels of government that we can do this together, because the math doesn't work right now. How do you think we could persuade the feds and the province to come in to say, I know, $1 million question.
No,
to
it's not.
To say that, how can we do this, right? How can I inspire them to say, we can do this together?
So firstly, I think it's a very courageous thing that the city did to step up unconditionally to waive the development charges in the first step and challenge the other levels of government. But I don't know if you guys watched Austin Powers when he wakes up and he says $1 million. When you said the Fed should come up with $7.2 billion, I think that's less than they have allocated. You got the money.
I know they got the money. They just need to push it forward and say yes, right?
But I think their issue is nobody's taking it because we don't start condos. Though that's why I think the development. Sorry,
this is rental housing we're
nobody's
talking
starting
about.
rental. Nobody's starting rental. We've got projects that are approved. The development charge waiver saves about 5%. Interest rates they kind of moderated, so we can make it work. We can make it work. It's still scary in terms of renting up the buildings, but the development charge waiver makes the projects go. The federal government. We've got projects that are approved, but we haven't been able to start them yet. So they want to give developers money in Toronto because they're terrified that nobody's building anything in Toronto.
I know.
So I think what you did was provide a key that makes it all work. On the provincial level, I think you also have the money, and I think that
we do.
I think you have the money for another 13,000 units.
Ooh!
Yeah.
Did you hear that? We have money for the other 13,000 units. So together we can build 20,000 units of rental housing. Woohoo! Okay. So call your MPP today. Premier Ford's birthday is on Wednesday. So advanced birthday present. But anyway, I'm okay. Do I need to ask a question to the audience? What is the takeaway in this? What did we learn? It's harder to build in Toronto. Mm-hmm. You're willing to take the bold step to do it in Toronto. You might not make as much as in Saskatoon or whatever.
We won't.
You won't, I know. But thank you for doing it because you're showing the way. So what are the lessons? What do you think is that we could learn? And what do you think we can learn for this example? Maybe a minute here and a minute to the audience.
Okay, so I think that Michelle was mentioning it about, she called it partnerships. I think the key thing is we've got a problem, and there's a lot of reasons why we have a problem. The problem is not new. The federal government has put money into affordable housing since '93. The province hasn't done it since 1995. So there's been efforts over the last 7 or 10 years to try to get this going, and I think ACPL is great. I think what you're doing is great. But I'd say the key thing is not to be an ideologue. The idea is we will work with anybody who can help us get stuff done. And I think you've shown that you don't have to sit and say what my religious beliefs are. It's just how do you get housing? That's the job we all have. So I think getting over, I know I saw my badge, it says private developer, there's a target on the back. I didn't wear it.
You're not wearing your badge, I noticed.
didn't wear it
That's
because
why.
I don't like to, I have an identity. But what I would say is we work with a lot of not-for-profits. It's a wreck. The ability for not-for-profits to actually build affordable housing is next to impossible, way harder for a private developer. So we've been working where we try to backstop them on different areas. The federal government needs to look at how to make their programs hold together for not-for-profits. I think the tenant activists, I think they have a role, but maybe not to be so angry, just try to work on solutions. I think what you're doing is great. I think the federal government's doing amazing things with a lot of money. The province is trying. And I think the developers shouldn't be looking at the city to prevent them from going broke. I think the developers need to work with the city to get things built.
Hey, what's your key takeaway? I need the entire schedule. What's your key takeaway? None? No key takeaway? What?
Where's the province?
Where's the province? Call the province. It might be coming. You never know. You never know. Where's the province? Okay. We need to invite the province on the next set. Are you going to have another work party? We'll have a work party, and we'll invite the province. Okay? Yep. Okay. You get to ask a question on me, for me. What would it be? Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. No, don't
You
be scared.
don't have to.
I don't want you to have anxiety. Yeah, it's a question I wonder about all the time. It's like 7 or 8 years ago in Toronto, people talked about a world-class city. There was just such a great feeling of pride that Toronto's getting better and better, and we love it, and we're so proud of it. And it just seems like people say bad things about Toronto now, and people just hang around with negativity. Now, obviously, it's not very good for their well-being to be negative. Mm-hmm. But what are we going to do to get people to be more excited about the city, speak higher of the city, and support each other in the city?
I think we need to celebrate our successes, right? Like Americans, they are so gung-ho. Little small things, rah, we did it. We just say, thank you, sorry, okay, sorry. Thank you. Let us be proud. Let us celebrate the successes. You know, when the city of Toronto said, no development charges, I needed people to say, yeah, about time, because the interest rate is so high to make the, a former, like, you know, speaking about ideology, you least expect someone like me to discount taxes, you know. I wouldn't use the word axe, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So let us celebrate successes. Let us celebrate generosity. I just came from an event for World Wildlife Fund where the Barrett Family Foundation stepped up and donated $10 million to WWF. So we have a city that have generous folks. We have a city of newer immigrants and older immigrants that believe in working hard and getting ahead, hardworking people. We have a city that believe in sharing with each other. Look at Habitat for Humanity, right? All the amazing work Michelle and Inna have done, and it's phenomenal. Let us celebrate them and say, yeah, we can keep building, because that gives us hope instead of people feeling angry that they can't get ahead. But you, as a developer, a builder, will give people hope. Then you can turn that anger into a feeling that we could dream, using your name, dream ahead and be able to have a hopeful future. So you are part of the solution. So thank you very much to Michael Cooper. Thank you very much, Head of Dream. Thank you. Yeah, next, okay. My relentless timer, Andrea from Sinclair, come on up. And Nama, wow, okay, come. Now, Andrea, Sinclair has always been known for two things: providing supportive housing and doing innovative kind of building. Remember the first project in Kensington Market? I think it was in
I do.
Wasn't it? Yeah, I was a local councillor. Sinclair stepped up, added addition. Now you're adding additional units on the roof and all kinds of winning all kinds of awards. And you've continued to find housing opportunity in so many different places. Tell me about some of the places where Sinclair put housing. Tell us more. You know, there's a newest project in Ossington, but you're packing density on the existing Sinclair site. Tell me.
Right. So, yes, we started out in Kensington Market, which was a very welcoming neighborhood for us, and has a groovy atmosphere. We also have looked for opportunities to put housing in very desirable, sometimes even upscale neighborhoods. So, for example, Yorkville, Rosedale, Queen West Triangle, and we have a building on the edge of the Distillery District, just to give some examples. And there's a few reasons for that. One is that the same features that make those neighborhoods appealing for everyone are the same things that make them appealing for people that have experienced homelessness. So access to transit, access to healthcare, affordable food, and just dynamic landscapes around them that make the city exciting and worth living in. And then some of the other reasons are that St. Clair's believes that every neighborhood needs to shoulder some responsibility, or to say it a different way, to have the opportunity to participate in solutions to housing people that don't have homes. And then the flip side of that is that every neighborhood benefits from inclusivity and becomes a better, safer place when more people are housed. And it's beholden to St. Clair's to make sure that that's the case. And lastly, I think that the reason St. Clair's has been able to do that is because we're opportunity driven. And I think all of us are pretty opportunity driven. And we've been able to see opportunity in buildings that other people wouldn't see the same in. So we take excitement out of transforming buildings and making the neighborhoods a better place, enhancing the neighborhoods.
Thank you. Why don't we give 2 minutes answer each, and then the audience will get 1 minute answer rather than 2 minutes, okay? I'm just giving you folks less time, giving them more time.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
So, congratulations, Emma, for
Thank
your
you.
first build project.
Mhm.
Important milestone for an emerging architect.
Absolutely.
Woo!
And what type of a
Yeah,
building?
yeah. Innovative emerging architect. Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, tell us about how you approached the design of this Ossington site. I'm guessing this project is indeed smart density. What does that mean, smart density?
Well, so I think it checks so many boxes. It is the missing middle. It is in the yellow belt. It is an infill. It's on existing land, so no acquisition. It is mass timber, like almost like a little dream project that you could ask for, and for a good cause socially. So, you know, you asked that today would be about innovation, and for me, sometimes it's just about the low-tech stuff, low-hanging fruit, and that is what it was for me. Like, it was there. We just, I always quote Andrea that said, we just made the land work a little bit harder. And I think that's part of that.
Make the land work a bit harder. So smarter density. Tell me more about the density piece.
Well, we added 25 beds, and these are smaller units. We learned from Andrea that the preference is...
Tell me about the approach. Like, you know, you're thinking of space and building separately, right? Differently.
Well, in this, the approach is simple. It was what did we replace? Surface parking and a storage, right? Like it's there, and I think a lot of our organizations just don't look about what they already have. And it was an infill. There is an existing church that was converted already, and we created an L-shaped infill, created an interior courtyard between the old building and the new building, and added 25 units.
So there was some beautiful garden there that was lost, but tough choices have to be made. And I think that we're in a housing crisis, not a garden crisis, right? So that's the way we responded to it. And I think that what we at St. Clair's have experienced is that smaller buildings are not economically viable. They're a drain. And if we're going to create housing that leaves a legacy of sustainable affordability, then we need to lean hard into density. And that's what NAMA was able to do in creating the building to make the most use of space to make the whole site work better.
So what's the takeaway? Anyone want to chime in a takeaway, or you can tell us what is the takeaway? Make the land work harder. Yeah?
Hey, Adams.
Anything else? A takeaway from what is done?
Smart people can live in less space.
Say that again.
Smart is not necessarily technology.
Aha. When I heard something else here.
More people can live in less space
More people can live in less space happily.
happily.
Okay. Yeah?
Or as I say, how much are you willing to pay to have less units?
Ah, okay. Anything else? That is great. Thank you so much. That is thank you for allowing us to think differently. Thank you so much. Okay. Our next person Housing Builds Community, Andrew Joyer and Jason Lyle. Come on up. Yes. I am well. Okay. Andrew, you're the first developer to break ground. I remember it was in the hot summer day.
Yeah, you had
Yeah?
shoes like that on a construction site.
I know. I had open toes, clean, sort of, sandals. Now, 5207 Dundas, right? Right at Kipling and Dundas, I think.
Yep.
You were last in application queue and first in the ground. Congratulations. How did you do it?
Yeah, there's probably, thinking about it sequentially, we've had a great couple of years working closely with the Housing Secretariat, Create TO. We've done different projects with them. And so having worked with them on ground leases, contribution agreements, et cetera in the past, we were able to get to terms quickly. I think we finalized the business terms 2 months after getting selected. And then hyperinflation, 2022. Costs went through the roof, interest rates doubled, and things weren't looking great within 4 or 5 months of getting awarded the project. But we kept spending money, we kept pushing our team to advance design development, and we were direct with the city about the challenges. And so I think, credit to, again, Create TO, the Housing Secretariat. They looked at solutions, and we realized that adding more density could make the project viable again. And I think they went to bat because we kept spending a bunch of money and driving forward, so we appreciate that. And we got the yield to a place that made sense. And I think finally, having done a bunch with CMHC, we were able to get our loan application in and our loan funded in 6 months. So that was fast.
6 months? That's fast.
Yeah, it was fast. So we've done a few ACLP deals over the years. CMHC might have been telling me what I wanted to hear, but they tell me that was the fastest one to date. And so I think a lot of stars aligned, and we were able to make it happen. Mm-hmm. So you can go there today. There's 4 cranes. We're on the 2nd floor. Yeah, full go.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, we want builders to build communities, not just homes.
Mm-hmm.
Partner with nonprofits. Tell us about 5207 Dundas, and what are you building there beyond the 725 apartment buildings, apartment units, pardon me.
Yeah, great question, and I think the question in many ways is emblematic of what we're trying to do. We're definitely not trying to just build 725 units. We think of ourselves as building community, and that really impacts how we think about units, amenities, and programming. And so when we think about market and affordable units, we don't separate it. We don't put all the affordable units in the podium and the market units up top. We integrate it. We call it a checkerboard. And so we finish all units to the same standard, same finishes, appliances, design. Like, you don't know who lives behind the door, and that's by design. It's free of stigma. It's really a thriving, complete community. And another big element of that is the amenities and the programming. Whether it's communal gardening spaces with Evergreen Brickworks, who comes every month to run classes for us, or a concert series we do with Toronto Life and others.
Concerts?
Yeah. Live music. We do cooking classes with local restaurants. So we try to bring our residents together. Again, it's not market, it's not affordable, it's just a singular, thriving, complete community. So we really try to bring these places to life because we think that that's emblematic of the diversity of the city and the promise that it represents. So we're really deliberate and intentional about that. And you mentioned not-for-profits. Truth be told, like, we don't actually do a ton up front with each different specific not-for-profit because we're trying to take a singular, holistic approach to the community. Like, we don't design suites or places that are different because we want everyone to come enjoy them together. But we do make exceptions from time to time. And our partnership with March of Dimes, which Jason can tell you more about, is one of those. Because we're working with those with accessibility needs, we do need to pre-plan for things like powered doors or extra blocking behind drywall to help support equipment. And so we do partner with them out of the gates to help design units for them. But other than that, we're really trying to create singular communities.
Excellent. Jason, tell us how the units being accessible and all that.
So yeah, and I really do have to compliment Tricon. I've been in the business for 30 years as a nonprofit service provider. Tricon's probably the only second corporate building developer that's actually engaged us, and I have to give a shout out to Arena Foundation. They're in the room as well, and they did this as well many moons ago.
Arena, yeah.
But I was really impressed with the reach out. It takes a lot of advocacy, and we had the wonderful opportunity of being consulted right from the get-go about what would you need then to provide service. And actually the approach really was about, we're trying to create a community, which as a nonprofit, that resonates so greatly. So in this particular build, there'll be 15 units designated for people with physical disabilities or seniors. And we've had wonderful experience with Trigon previously in this regard. And I have to tell you, when we opened up the first building, and when this is on the docket now, I was there for the first build with Tricon, and people are on wait lists for 10 years from an accessible standpoint. And to be there when they moved into the initial development and see the smile, like clients saying, this is my home, this is where I get to live, it brings tears to you immediately. So it's just a wonderful experience to take, that this is being taken into consideration, and the surrounding community is taking that into consideration as well.
Jason, lessons to other nonprofits, so that it might not be 10 years, maybe 8 years, 5 years.
I'll switch
Shorter.
it around. I'll say something for the developers. There's over 250 transfer payment agencies, nonprofits in this province that are in the same boat as March a Dime. So I mean, there are a lot of community partners that would be very much interested in participating in that development phase, and where you can actively get involved with the developer right from the get-go, because those considerations cannot happen after the fact, right? That consultation has to happen, and I have to give a heads up. You know, like they recognized. Sorry, I say they, but you know, Tricon really recognized they weren't necessarily the subject matter experts. They consulted with us right from the get-go and allowed us and our client perspective to be incorporated into design.
So what's the takeaway from the audience? Andrew, or any of you want to chime in?
B3 compatible at the beginning, it's not that much more expensive and you're accessible for everybody.
Absolutely. It doesn't cost a lot to make it accessible when you do it right from the beginning. Absolutely.
Right from the beginning, rather than converting it. Okay. Other takeaways? And do you have any takeaways, tips? Anyone? Say that again?
Yeah.
Checkerboard community, complete. Yeah. Holistic approach. Great. Any other takeaway? Ready to partner. Okay. Now, I cheated. I forgot to get them to ask me a question. I conveniently, do you have a question for me? And I'll ask them too. I'll answer both questions directly. She's written it out. Yeah, that's why I forgotten because I didn't want to, yeah. And you have some question, one question to me also?
I do, yeah.
Okay, why don't you ask it first? She was looking it up.
Sure.
Go ahead. I'll answer both together. Save
So-
some time.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, again, kudos to you for leading from the front and I think creating a real culture of getting to yes, the city getting housing built. We continue to bid on sites and be interested in partnering with the city because you guys continue to be a wonderful partner. But what makes me a little nervous going into 2025 is there's a lot of government interdependency to make affordable housing work. And with potential elections at the provincial level and the federal level, like, how are you thinking about that? How do we ensure that the ecosystem doesn't get destabilized?
Ooh, $1 million question. What's your question? Maybe it's easy.
Oh, it's a way easier. It's a softball question for you. You're going to love it. Torontonians, I think, are thoughtful and compassionate people. But what can Toronto Council do to help Torontonians understand and support the tough choices that we all need to make to meaningfully increase supply and affordability?
Oh boy, okay. I think I can answer both questions in the same way. We sometimes get into thinking of the us and them. What we're hearing, there's no us and them, we're together, right? And my dad had a mental health illness when he arrived to Canada. It was really hard because he couldn't find a job. So he descended to real hard times. And in the 70s, they do do a shock treatment, fry your brains kind of thing. And he couldn't work. And I often thought, okay, had I not been around to support my dad, he could have been homeless. He wouldn't have been able to afford his apartment in St. Jamestown. I was able to pay his rent. So the building housing, rental housing, condos, supportive housing, different kinds of housing for nonprofits, whatever it might be. It could be our neighbors, it could be our co-workers, it could be our family members, our dads, moms, kids. If we could share our experience and tell stories of why housing matters, no matter who we are, and what it means, and how much cheaper it is for us to have shelter over the head rather than having people get out on the street and get in trouble. And if we could give that kind of stories, then no matter what political leanings one have, that they would find the common ground to say, yeah, we all need housing, all kinds of housing. Housing for people that have accessibility questions or mental health issues, or people that are earning less or earning more, but we can, if you create a beautiful community and sing together, or be able to cook together, enjoy each other's company, we can feel each other's humanity. And I think when we do that, we can cut across neighbors so that we could afford higher density, not fearful of change, not fearful of who's moving into the neighborhood, because higher density, we won't die, okay? It's okay. And whoever is moving in is going to be all right. Whichever person get elected, whatever they say during election, I'm the unmitigated disaster, according to the Premier, but we are having a good partnership building housing together. Hopefully I would get some rebate on the development charges, right? Michael is going to help me on that. So I think to answer your question, to answer both questions, we can do this together to say through experience that no matter who it is, whichever party, let's come together and build housing, because at the end of the day, we have a happy population, and we come together to build complete neighborhoods and find happiness. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for asking the questions. And okay, I have another person. Thank you. Thank you for build. 3 cranes, 4 cranes, get it done. And I think you have another project at Tricon that we may be talking about soon. Okay, we won't give that away. And I think we have another Andrew Bosari, University Health Network, Housing is Health. Question number 4. Am I in good time right now? Yeah. That is my last person. And Keith Hambley. Yes, Fred Victor. Andrew, you're
Oprah,
always
right?
saying that housing is health. Tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah, well, I think that as a primary care physician that works in Regent Park and at University Health Network, we can't really talk about a universal health system without housing. So the data is really clear that people who are unhoused live half as long as the general public. So that is the most, we talk about the social determinants of health. It's a very academic term that we love to sound smart in medicine to write, but it's really obvious to people as a children. I know, Mayor, we both grew up in St. Jamestown, and I think the comment Andrea made about hope and opportunity, you as a kid could look out in the balcony of St. Jamestown and see that hope and opportunity did not feel the same when you're looking out into Rosedale versus to the amount of concrete and lack of opportunity and healthcare access that there was at the time. And so more recent data shows that just by one block, Bloor Street, that separates Rosedale and St. Jamestown, there's a 9-year difference in life expectancy. So this is not geography, this is the pathologies of poverty, these are the realities of hope and community and investment, social investment. And so when we talk about housing and people being chronically unhoused, they live half as long. They are twice as expensive in the healthcare system. And that is not because they want to be there, but they have their health conditions deteriorate. And I find it frustrating when we talk about a universal health system in Canada, and what we have to do is try to prescribe medications for people who are unhoused with chronic disease conditions, where we know they are not thinking about renewing their medications. They are thinking about where to sleep that night, where they'll sleep the next night. And the other reality, when we call homelessness a terminal condition about the health piece, is the wait list is 8 to 10 years long, which I think you mentioned. And so that means for the patients that I see, it is more likely that they will pass away than get into housing. And so that's why I think this is such an imperative for people here in the room and across sectors to address this as a health issue.
Tell me about Dunn.
Yeah, well, this is what's been great
The
to
process, and
with
your
Keith,
partnership with
yeah,
Keith.
with Keith at Fred Victor. I mean, Dunn House went back to the. I mean, it was kind of funny because I wore my name tag, and I think someone asked me like, "Why are you here? Like, you're at the hospital." And it's a great question. And I think what we did is we looked at the data, Mayor Chow, to see, what were the question has to be if you're the University Health Network or the University Healthcare Network. And if we're the health network, we have to be clear about the evidence about what drives better health outcomes. And so when I looked through the data as a researcher, it was clear we had about 55 patients that made up over 4,000 emergency department visits in 1 year. And that's not because they wanted to be in the emergency department. They had nowhere else to go. They had far worse outcomes. And when we looked at the costs, it's over $30,000 a month for a patient where I work. It's close to $14,000 a month in the prison system, which a dear friend, Lana Fredo, calls the de facto mental health system, because people have nowhere else to go. And it's around $7,000 in the shelter system and $3,500 a month for supportive housing. So the solution to me was clear that we had to go upstream. But I think when we look at Dunn House, to me, it is the power of partnership. There's Fred Victor. There's the City of Toronto Housing Secretariat.
Not everybody knows what Dunn House is. Describe. You
so
walk
it's
in
a parking lot. It was in
from a parking lot to supportive housing.
Yeah.
And in it?
And in it, we've got 4 stories of 51 housing units now that Keith, I know, can speak to. But I do want to say that this really was about partnership with the Housing Secretary. I know Abby and Valessa wasn't able to be here. But every level of government investing with UHN and now with Fred Victor to provide homes of their own bed and bath and own clinical space. We're talking about the integration that I'll turn to Keith about more of the description of Dunn House.
Tell us more.
Sure.
Why is it unique?
It's unique. Actually, it's unique and it's not unique. And I think the fellow from March of Dimes has been in this business for 30 years. So have I, and so have many of in this room. I remember when I was frontline staff of clawing together, cobbling together health services to come into housing at Queen and Jarvis. It was a battle to do that. What is intriguing and unique about this is the intentionality of this project that actually marries housing, health services, clinical services together intentionally. That is the big difference. There is supportive housing on site, 51 units, as we described. There's community kitchen there, community space to build not just a community in living in that building, but build community in the neighborhood as well. And we could talk about the excitement around being part of the Parkdale neighborhood. But that is the uniqueness, is the intentionality of marrying together clinical services and housing. We see them interlocked. The teams are integrated together. It's a one-team approach, if you will, that brings together our housing staff, even our maintenance staff, our community development staff, Andrew's staff, clinical staff together. And we're just in the process of ramping up and moving people in. I think we have, 10, 12 people in already. But that team together will make such a difference in a person's life, and that will have the great health outcomes and housing outcomes that we anticipate in the evaluation. And I have 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm going to jump ahead of the takeaway. The takeaway is intentionality.
Okay. Takeaway for the audience here?
I think about partnership and thinking differently about health and what really drives health, and the fact that we've been neglecting the homelessness crisis for far too long.
What about to all of you? What's your takeaway hearing this partnership? Yeah? Housing is a social determinant of health, yeah?
Every OHT should have a housing partner.
Ah, every...
Is that for my friend from Rena?
Rena, yeah.
He and I are also chairs of our local OHTs, so there's our integration right there.
Yay. Any other takeaways? Everyone can solve the housing crisis. It's all on us, right? We all have solutions, no matter what we do. Any other takeaways? Okay, I think you have, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a couple takeaways too, is beyond the intentionality and what's been said in the audience. It's, and you spoke about it, Mayor, around the neighborhood where we're located. I can't recall, and I've been around the block a few times, the welcoming neighborhood that Parkdale is for this housing. And I think the challenge came to you around how does council and how does the city promote that? And you spoke earlier around celebrating. Let's celebrate that and show the way in all the neighborhoods across this city that it can be done well, and again with intentionality of building neighborhoods where people do see homeless people in their neighborhood. And this group came around and said, listen, we see the issue here, but we're also part of the solution. How do we celebrate that?
That's amazing.
Everyone needs more Parkdale.
Victor, you're right.
Yeah. Now, the city is about to build 5 shelters. And we're starting to get petitions against it. So count on you to help out.
That's right.
You may have a question to me. Huh? What? Oh, yeah, build housing, not shelter. Yeah. But in the meantime, we still need some shelter.
You can convert those
we only
shelters
have
into
12,000
housing.
people on shelters, right? In shelters. So, any questions you have for me? Make it easier.
Do I have the question? I can't remember if I had the question.
I guess I just, seeing, and I think the comment has come up around the affordability to live in Toronto, and for myself, but maybe 90+% of the patients that I see are receiving ODSP or OW, and I know there's been a lot of active work, and the realities are now there's a huge disconnect. There's legislated into poverty and poor health, and so just wondering if there's a plan from the city piece working with the province. As you said, you've had some good headway and great traction, but knowing that the fact that ODSP rates have not changed, and the challenge is clinicians sitting in front of someone who's on ODSP or receiving ODSP, and realizing that this is again about the pathologies of poverty and what we're supposed to do. I promised a softball. I felt like you were on your roll.
I don't have any answer to how to increase ODSP because that's purely Ontario government, sorry. But what I can do is we can build more done houses, right? So we have 130 Toronto Parking Authority parking lots. We are available for affordable housing. We have another 55 lots, and of course there's Housing Now portfolios. So we have land, okay? And we have our city folks. The reason why one of the staff is not here because she's still working probably. We have record approval time, okay? So, yeah, Vanessa. I had a co-op application. The application came in April. By July, Ron Stroy said, what? We got our approval, 3 months. And then we topped that a month later. The application approval was 2 months. So for nonprofit, it's really fast. For market, it's still faster. It's 600 days less. So speed, land, discount, property tax discount, no development charges. If it is affordable housing, everything is discounted, is gone. Development charges, community benefits, park levy, and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. All of that is gone. So we are doing everything we can We don't have a lot of cash, as you know, but we're open for partnership because I think if there's a lessons that I'm hearing tonight of all the conversation, there's one takeaway for me is collaboration and partnership. That's what I'm hearing, right? Oh boy, someone is saying time.
You're the boss. You're the boss.
He's the boss, yeah. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you. I promise to end at 8 o'clock. It's 7:58. Thank you for your time. I'm going to turn my mic back to in for a closing remarks. Thank you.
Big round of applause for Mayor Chow. What a stimulating evening. So much energy and positivity and possibility. And Mayor Chow, I think on behalf of all of us, we want to acknowledge you are bringing a level of can-do spirit, a level of open-mindedness, and just a level of determination that is exactly what all of us want and need and welcome right now. And similarly, the way that you both invite and celebrate innovation, I think is just so in the context of why we're here, why people are choosing to give an evening to this cause of housing we care so much of. So again, big round of applause for our interviewer and our mayor. And I also just as we close the formal part of the evening, Michelle, I'm getting to my notes here. I want to recognize that, of course, in addition to the terrific innovators that we had speaking in the panel in front of you, there are lots of innovators in this room tonight, and that's how we want to spend the rest of the evening talking about innovation. I want to just close, however, by recognizing the innovator organizations who have sponsored tonight's organization, and that includes innovators in affordable ownership, which is my world at Habitat for Humanity, GTA, and Canada, and also Options for Homes. Innovators in affordable housing financing, which is Van City. Innovators in developing scalable affordable housing, which is Ellis Don Community Builders. Innovators in affordable and purpose-built rental developments, which is Wood Green and Greenwind. And finally, innovators in sustainable development, education, and research, which is our partners at George Brown. So in that spirit, it's time to conclude the formal part of our evening and switch to the conversational part of the evening. And as Michelle said in her introductory remark, if you don't know someone, that's a great sign. Use it as an opportunity to introduce yourself, because there have been great innovations and possibilities that have come out of this evening in past years, and the person you're introducing yourself may well be the person you are partnering with to make more homes possible here in the GTA. Have a fantastic evening. Don't go away. This is just the beginning of how we use this time together.